Take me to the ocean beach. I want to melt under the sun under your gaze.
What's up? What's up? Peace and blessings to all my gods and goddesses out there. It's your girl, Goddess C, here with another episode on Holistic and Spiritual as Fuck. And I'm super excited to reconnect with you guys so soon this time, okay? So, first and foremost, I hope everybody is taking care of themselves, mind, body, and spirit, because that is what it is all about. We're all about that mind, body, spirit, holistic integration. And that is how we stay centered in this crazy ass world that we're living in. Okay. So before we jump into the topic and the title of today, we're going to go ahead and get some business out of the way so I can let you guys know where you can keep up with me at. Okay. So on TikTok, Facebook, as well as YouTube, you can find me at Holistic and Spiritual AF. On Instagram, you can find me at Holistic and Spiritual AF podcast. Okay. All that information will be down in the description. Also, you can check out this podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, as well as Amazon. Okay. So we're trying to make sure we get around and spread around because I have some really excited things coming up for you guys. That I'm incorporating with this podcast. And I'm super, super excited because it's been in the works for the longest. And now, Spirit, the ancestor, God says it's time. Okay. So today, our topic is actually going to be coming full circle, where it all started. This is pretty much, how my journey started. I've talked briefly in a couple of different episodes about some of my background. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into it and qualify. And what kind of inspired me to do this in the first place is I realized how much growth um, I have had in spiritual understanding and awareness, as well as, transformation and just a tremendous amount of things that I've experienced, that I've done, and that I've been blessed and been able to do, and abilities and gifts that I have. But sometimes it's just very important to bring it back to basics, because I have a lot of times, a lot of people want to know about what they think is the cool and exciting stuff, and they want to jump into things that are like super advanced, and then they get halfway through it and they can't maintain it, they can't sustain it. And most of the reason why is because they haven't started the basics. They've probably never done the basics, or maybe they've gotten off of the basics, and they just, they just can't maintain and sustain it. So today, I want to talk about how it all started for me, because Spirit has been urging me and calling me and pushing me to talk more about what it is that I do and to bring that forth to the world a little bit more. Okay. So, this podcast, as you guys know, is to help people, to help women of the African diaspora as well as Indigenous Americans to be able to connect with their ancestors. And there's a lot of things that need to be done before that, as well as things that should be done along the way to kind of keep that connection really heightened and potent. Okay. So for me, the whole thing started about, oh gosh, I don't want to date myself. I was a massage therapist first. That's kind of pretty much where it all started for me. So I had a husband who has transitioned. He had cancer. And before I got into any kind of holistic, any kind of spiritual awareness, this was right before he transitioned. And he was in the process of chemo. And the chemo it was just absolutely horrible. And anybody who's ever experienced a family member or a loved one or a friend who has gone through the chemo process knows exactly what I'm talking about. But the chemo was making him extremely sick. It was making him extremely weak, and it seemed to be killing him. Quite frankly, what I was looking at on the outside was this was definitely not the type of quality of life that he had before or anything that I wanted to see him with. And I'll never forget, this was 2010. 2010. And I was asking the doctor, I was like, is there anything, what about holistic or alternative methods of healing? And the doctor literally laughed in my face and was like, that stuff doesn't work. So it probably was about a month or maybe 2 months after that, my husband actually transitioned from the cancer. And so right before he did that, I started looking into massage therapy. And I ended up going to school like a month after he transitioned, which was way too soon. But, everything happens in divine order. I have to know that everything happens for a purpose. So I ended up jumping into school like a month after he transitioned. And little did I know that was going to be a journey and that took me in some amazing, amazing places. So I got into school, and the school was a traditional massage school. I don't. The name of it was the Natural Health Institute, and I won't say what state it was in. So Natural Health Institute, and at that time they taught us like the fundamentals of massage therapy, like working on bodies and stuff like that. But we also had some teachers that were into energy healing. Okay, so we had a teacher that was a Reiki master. I had a teacher that was an aromatherapist. There was somebody that was into Ayurvedic medicine. So I was really, really blessed. Okay, and once we started working on each other, it was like riding a bike for me. I just kind of like tapped into it, and it was almost like, an ability inside of my DNA that I just jumped right into, and I was automatically like a pro at it. So I was very blessed to be able to get that mechanical side of massage, but also on the side, as well as some of our classes, they were teaching us this energy form of energy healing. And so I had never heard anything about energy. This was a while back. This was before it was mainstream, and also I was younger then. So I ended up learning about Reiki, and I'll never forget that because it was my first introduction into energy. Okay, just energy as a whole, as well as energy healing. Okay, so she taught us like a few little tips and things that we could do to begin to utilize Reiki on ourselves. And I was just like, I ran with that because it was like I said, it was naturally in my DNA. It was the first time I was experiencing it. I got an actual chance to feel energy. And at that time, I was very much a show me girl. You can't just tell me. I wasn't like doing faith based systems and things like that. I needed to see, touch, and feel some shit. It needed to be tangible for me. So I was able to actually feel energy in a practice that we did. And I was just like, I ran with that. And when I say I ran with that, I ran off on that, and I have been on this journey ever since. And then, of course, I tapped into a whole lot of things, and that is really where my specialty lies when it comes to healing. I'm more of an energy healer. So a lot of the things that I use are energy modalities that create different types of changes in people that then create the healing that's necessary in them. So it's not so much as can be explained or necessarily understood, but it is very, very effective. And I've had other people say, they've had healing of all different types as a result of it. And there's a lot of different ways that I go into that. But anyway, back to the beginning and back to basics. So, Reiki healing was my first experience ever, ever, ever with energy. Now, I know a lot of people know that we hear all the time everything is comprised of energy, and that is so true. Every single thing is comprised of energy. And if our energy is imbalanced or there's an energy imbalance of any kind, it creates imbalances of all kinds. And this type of energy goes so deep that it's intertwined into everything, like literally. And it can go into filter into our relationships, our emotions, our prosperity, our money mindset, the type of reality that we're living. It could even go so deep as if there's energy imbalances to create dysfunctions and diseases in the body. That is how serious energy is. Okay, now the reason for bringing this topic up is, like I said, spirits moving through me and says, okay, you ready, get back out there, get the podcast going. Got some other things behind the scenes that is going to actually be teaching you guys how to do stuff, so that it'll be hands-on, kind of like workshops and things like that. So you'll be able to experience what it is that I'm talking about. So make sure that you follow me on those other platforms so you can see when those things are happening. But anyway, like I said, I realized I needed to backtrack a little bit because people were trying to jump into concepts that are just completely way over their head, and that requires a tremendous amount of energy healing as well as energy practice. Okay. So Reiki was the first thing. And I ended up, just having a little bit of that. And I did massage therapy. And every time I would work on someone, they would always say, my God, are you using a heating pad? Your hands are so warm. And I still have that. And when I would do Reiki later on as a Reiki master, people would say, my God, your hands, I can feel the heat from it. And that's just one of those gifts and abilities, that runs in my DNA because I found out that I have a grandmother, or a grandmother that transitioned on my dad's side, who was also really good with her hands, and also had that same kind of energy and ability. So talking about energy and beginning to work on energy healing is going to help us when we're on that journey of wanting to connect with our ancestors, because chances are we have energy blocks of all kinds coming from all different directions. Okay, so we've got energy blockages from the computer, from our cell phone, from 5G towers, from radios, from everything. We've got a whole digital environment that we're living in now. And that is kind of pulling and weighing on our energy fields and our energy centers and our chakras and our um, uh, acupressure points and just our meridians and all of those different things that's knocking us out of balance. You know what I'm saying? So if we're not doing things and having regular practices to attune our energy, to align our energy, to keep our energy connected with source, then chances are there's going to be energy blockages all over the damn place, which is going to make it that much harder for you to be able to receive sacred wisdom and information, to be able to hear what it is that your ancestors are saying, to be able to pick up intuitively on things, to be able to heighten our third eye ability, dreams, and all of those things. Okay. So that's why I was like, you know what? Let's go back to the drawing board because no matter how advanced you are or whether you're just getting started as a brand new newbie, this is a powerful topic. Okay. So I went into energy healing first through massage therapy, and I got a lot of practice as a massage therapist. I worked on hundreds of bodies. I worked inside of spas, and then I broke off and I started doing my own. Um, Mobile massage business where I did like private parties and stuff like that, weddings, bridal showers, stuff like that. So, I continued to go on that path. And then I became a Reiki master. I went through all of the different levels, level one and level two, and then level three, which was attuned as a Reiki master. So I was utilizing that inside of my massages as well. And it was creating all kinds of crazy ass changes for people. Like, okay, people would come in for a massage, and I just couldn't help but to do it all. You know what I'm saying? And I was getting to hone my skills as a healer. Okay. And then that pushed me on into other forms of healing, such as energy healing, such as Qigong. Okay. Qigong. I love Qigong. Okay. Qigong and Tai Chi, very similar. But Qigong is actually going to be your first level before you get into Tai Chi because you have to get into the practice of building energy. And Qigong was also amazing for me. So about 5 years later, I ended up getting into Qigong and becoming a level one Supreme Science Qigong instructor. Okay. All I knew is when I went in there, and I actually went in there for like a CEU course for massage therapy. We had to take continuing education courses. So I went in there and I was like, oh, this looks cool. I was always drawn to the energy stuff. So I went to that and immediately I knew I had to do it. And it had to be about 250, 300 of us all in this big stadium type like thing or this big open arena inside of a hotel. We were all doing Qigong together. And that energy was so palpable. I mean, it was so crazy as like deep, for me. And I knew I had to do it. I didn't know what I was going to be doing with it, but I remember Spirit saying, yeah, make sure you get that and go ahead and put that in the pocket because we're going to be using that. And so I ended up doing a lot of stuff with Qigong. And that helped me tremendously as far as balancing out my energy and allowed me a different modality to be able to do that fairly quickly. And I used to do Qigong all the time in Florida at the park. And every time I was doing it, people always wanted to come over there and like totally interrupt my meditation. But it was so powerful for me. So another around the same time as Qigong, I also got involved in Tantra. Okay. And I think I talked a little bit briefly about Tantra in the previous episode. So be sure to check that out. And Tantra is basically um, spiritual transformation utilizing sexual energy. Okay. And when I say energy, it's important to understand that energy is energy. Okay. A lot of times people hear sexual and they just stop right there and that's it, they're so freaking 3D with it. That's all they can hear is sex. I want to know about that, which there is a part of that. We talked about that. There's a huge part of Tantra that's about sex. But the main part of Tantra, before you can even get into having transformational sexual energy once again to be able to create spiritual transformation and elevation. We talked about being badass with that. You got to know what the fuck you're doing. You know what I'm saying? People want to jump out there. That's what I mean. People want to jump into Tantra and they've never done anything to remove or clear any energy blockages. So, a lot of the stuff that I do is I teach people how to be able to do these things, simple, very effective tools that you can use to be able to keep your energy centered, to be able to keep your energy aligned, to be able to remove blockages. And there's simple things that we can do on our own And of course, I'm a proponent of going to get outside energy healing as well. If there's deeper things, or maybe you can't do certain stuff, then definitely go ahead and get somebody who is, qualified in that area as well. But we all are very capable of tapping into energy right now. Okay. So I'm going to be bringing a lot of that to you guys. Okay. So, but it's important to know what the hell we doing. Don't just because somebody told you something that sounds really good, then you just want to jump into it and you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know the history behind it. You don't know how to do it, how not to do it, and all of these different things. So I got into Tantra, and Tantra was like, okay. And so I ended up getting into Qigong and Tantra at the same time, all the while, carrying this potent energy as a Reiki master, plus the experience I had gained from working on so many different bodies. And that shit took me somewhere else. It was amazing. We did a lot of working with Tantra is a form of yoga as well. So there was a lot of breathing exercises to raise the Kundalini first, okay? And if you don't know what the Kundalini is, child, we ain't got enough time to go into it. This is not a teaching podcast, okay? This is just my experience about how we're coming back around full circle. Okay. And so I got into Tantra. I started doing things and exercises to raise my Kundalini. I started to heal different things in my energy centers, my chakras. I was staying balanced and aligned. And poof, all of a sudden, I felt this strong need that I would to get back to my African roots. It was the craziest thing ever. I swear, everything that I was doing up until that point was New Age, was coming over from Eastern medicine, coming over from over there somewhere, and I was getting access to what I could get my hands on. Okay, what was over here in Western world, what was mainstream. I was hanging out with the yogis in the yoga community and the meditation tribe and stuff like that, and they wasn't talking about no Ifa, and they wasn't talking about hoodoo and things like that. They were talking about energy, and everything is energy. And so I was tapping into that, and it took a course of years. It was a course of about 8 years of all of those different types of practices, and then getting into Tantra and Qigong. And here I think I'm going somewhere else with a Kundalini raising, about to go have sex somewhere. And then I messed around and got into traditional African spirituality. I shit you not. That's why I tell you guys this journey is so beautiful, and don't cheat yourself on it. Not to mention, it's all connected, because I think I talked about in another podcast way before becoming a Reiki master. I went from crystals to metaphysics. It was crazy. I just jumped into things. But whatever is inside of your DNA, whatever is inside of your bloodline generation, is what is going to be resonant with you. That's why the journey is going to be so unique and individual to each person. So that's why I always preach about making sure you're tapping into your ancestors, okay? Because you can get teachings from a variety of different places, and the people don't even have to be of the African descent. That's another thing I wanted to bring out about this, because a lot of these people that were teaching me, they were not Black. A lot of them were not melanated people. Okay. And so I learned a tremendous amount from them. And I would come inside of these places, and I would be one of two Black people in there. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that introduction. And I don't discount that, and the part that they played in my journey. So next thing you know, I'm sliding into traditional African spirituality. And I just amassed a tremendous amount of knowledge in a short period of time. It was as if my DNA was literally being activated, and I was having access to a tremendous amount of information. Like, I couldn't even explain how I was able to receive and store this amount of information, other than the fact that it was spiritually, divinely being accessed and activated in my DNA, as if it was already there, and all we were doing was just coming in, activating it, turning it on, turning different switches on. And this all started from going to massage school and somebody talking about the idea of everything is energy. And it took me a course of about 8 years. Now, I'm not saying it's going to take that long for you, but I am saying that it takes what it takes. And it also takes consistency, and it takes practice, and it takes, going through healing processes, because I had to go through that to remove certain things that were in the way, to make space and make room for all of the new things that were coming up. And then I got into traditional African spirituality, and I've been on that ride now for almost 10 years. And it has been absolutely phenomenal. Okay. So, why did I come up with this whole topic for today? Because before, as I was getting into a lot of this new age stuff, before my husband transitioned, right before he transitioned, as a matter of fact, I was going to the Center for Spiritual Living. I was a true seeker. I was getting information anywhere and everywhere I could, except for traditional Christian churches. That to me, that didn't resonate with me. So I found this Center for Spiritual Living, and it teaches a lot about law of attraction. There was a lot of meditation, a lot of making sure that your mind, your thoughts are in alignment, and your frequency is adding up to what it is that you want to manifest. Now, I was still very young in this process, and I'll never forget this. But I actually went to one of their workshops, and I was like, "Yeah, man, there's something here." And this was almost 13 years ago. No, it was 13 years ago. And I was talking to a lady, and I was telling her about what was going on with my husband and how he was just the chemo was killing his ass. And she gave me this suggestion of what to do, and how to try to keep some food and stuff inside of him. And so I was so excited, and I rushed home to be able to go tell him about this, and I had this newfound hope. And my husband had transitioned that day. And that started the journey. So needless to say, I kind of pulled away from that spiritual living. Life got real, and I went on to this journey that I just described to you. I never stopped seeking. I just didn't go there. Well, today I ended up going to the Center for Spiritual Living in a different city, a different state, 13 years later. And I can't even describe to you when I saw myself come around full circle in the same place, different location, and the woman that I had become, the goddess that I am, the priestess that I am, the things that I had amassed, and the knowledge and the experience, and the things I activated in my DNA to come right on back around full circle in the same place. And this time, much more empowered. Um, uh, it's such a beautiful experience, guys. I tell you guys, don't cheat yourself on that. And so, something as I'm sitting in there the whole day, I'm receiving messages of all kinds that's finally giving me the clarity on the direction that we're going with this. And something said, take them back to the beginning, because that's where it all started for me. It started with understanding energy on that level. And because I am an energy healer, that would make sense for me to be able to express it in that way. But clearly, we're not doing all of that on the podcast, okay? So there will be some classes, some courses, some meditations, some affirmations, some gratitude, a lot of the things that I've amassed over the past 18 years that I'm going to be sharing and bringing to you guys. Okay. So if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, be sure to follow it. Okay. Because you don't want to miss nothing. Okay. Make sure you follow me on those other platforms as well, because I'll be telling you how to reach me and how to get access to those things. And then of course stay tuned, because I'm going to keep the information coming to you guys. Some of it'll be like this, some of it'll be conversational. Who knows? I'm not even going to go that far into it. I'm just going to let spirit do what it do. But until the next time, guys, that's the end of this podcast, and I'll check you on the next episode. Peace.
Take me to the ocean beach.